here, is that we are unable to prove that the system will converge, almost certainly. And the reason why is the following. So let's remove the diamonds. So here is, for instance, a stable configuration. Okay. And let's add a cell here. Let's add a cell. Let's add a diamond here. And what's going on is that we have created 3 active cells. 1 irreversible. Once it is updated, it will die. And 2 reversible. And if we click on the reversible here, you see some kind of nice particle that if you update with 2 buttons, one that goes forward and one that goes backward. Okay? And when it hits a crossing here, a new button appears that allows the particle to turn right. Okay? That's quite surprising. And if you move 1 step forward, then you are allowed to turn left. Okay? And then you may turn right, okay? Etc. And then this reorganizes the configuration in some nasty way because, you know, these particles follow some kind of random walks along the border but move the border as well. You know? And for instance, if they collide again, up, you obtain a new configuration, new stable configuration. Okay, so for instance, if you let it run, oops, where am I? Where is the mouse? Okay. So for instance, if I create a particle, okay, it did not survive. Okay, so this time it survived. Okay. Oops. Let's try to have one. Okay. Okay, so you see, it follows some kind of random walk, reorganizing, moving around. And so you have these rails here. You've seen that the particle can also move horizontally. And it may last for a long time. So let's try to do another stable configuration with more lines. Oops, where am I? Okay. So let's try with 6. Yeah, this one is nice. Okay. So let's try to launch some. Okay. Some particles. Oops. Died too fast. Okay. So here you see that they move around. And whoops. Let's converge. Okay. So let's launch them again. So this is a very nasty process to study. And it's quite surprising that this kind of process. So let's try to have the network collapse. I want to have, okay, so here you see the network has collapsed. The 2 lines were too close to each other and it collapsed. So it's a very, very messy one. And finally we end up with this one, okay? So, well, what I wanted to show you is that even if what may appear to be a very, very simple automata, you already observe very, very, very sophisticated things. And this is bad news. Or good news, whatever. Okay, so what do we have here is, okay, studying asynchronicity in cellular automata somehow simplifies the situation in the sense that, you know, configuration gets experimentally covered with patterns and you have regions competing with each other. The problem is that region competes with each other in some kind of intricate way and it's not really easy to understand what's going on, and even simulation may not help because, for instance, for the stable configuration, if we did not have tried to prove it, we would never have found this structure here, which is essential, to my point of view, in understanding what's going on exactly. So that's kind of tricky. So what we can observe here is that the very first step okay, the last step okay, and well. One of the reasons why it's so hard to prove is that, you know, you have to face a lot of case enumeration. And this is an issue because math have built themselves exactly to avoid any case of case enumeration. They have always chosen the problem that were nice and smooth and beautiful. They were hard. Okay, definitely hard. I'm not saying that. But what I'm saying is that there is missing a whole part that we need to understand automata, which is understanding how to enumerate cases, how to do that in a compact way, how to do that in a readable way. Okay, it's very hard to prove things in cellular automata, and especially to write the proof down. It's really hard. And also, it's really hard to be sure that it is correct. For instance, we made many incorrect proofs that we were about to submit it, and finally we discovered a very, very tiny case that we forgot, or something we did not read correctly, and so it's a real mess. So clearly, automatization would help. Okay, but the problem is designing automated procedure costs a lot of time, and it's not even clear that it's useful. So, but there is something here to do. We have really to understand this notion of particles, because we've seen it in other automata. Remember the one with isolated case? You know, there was these little guys going up and down, trying to have isolated cells matching with each other, or agreeing at least. And okay, so that's about it. So the nice thing is that we believe that the tools developed here might apply also to the outer totalistic cellular automata, which to some sense might be the class of automata that would make more sense in nature. That means what is outer totalistic cellular automata is you count the number of the number of people around you in the opposite state, and you base yourself only on this number. The transition is only based on this number. So if you think of concentration, threshold, and everything, this fit in this framework. So we have some hope that it works. So the fact that there are other asynchronous regimes, okay, where you allow neighboring cells to update at the same time, okay, and this yields some phase transition, nasty ones, and you have also, if you're not the influence of the topology, the underlying topology, is also very important, so you have to be careful with that. And an example of phase transition is this one. Oops, a little bit too early. Up. Is this one, for instance, here. So here it's minority with the von Neumann neighborhood. Okay, and it's exactly the same with minority with 8 closest neighbors. Here von Neumann, it's 4 closest neighbors. Okay, so instead of converging to stripe, it converges to checkerboard. Okay, and what you observe is that if you update each cell with probability alpha at each time step, so when alpha equals 0, it's more or less the case where you update only one cell at a time. Okay, when alpha goes to 0. So basically here what we have is the case where you update only one cell. So as for the Moore neighborhood, you converge, instead of converging to stripes, you converge to checkerboard, so it's a little bit easier. Okay, you have again this border, the red lines here. But what you observe is as alpha grows, there is a sharp threshold here around 0.83, where checkerboards are no more stable. It's a really sharp one. I mean, maybe it's not this value, maybe the value depends on n, okay, but at least for n equals 50, this is this value, and this is really sharp. I mean, you increase a little bit the asynchronous rate, then checkerboard just simply are vanishing, okay, and if you're a little bit below, they cover all the configuration, okay. And here you have a very nasty, a very strange regime where it's flashing between black and white, okay, and with noise, okay, and that's what you observe. And which is funny is that exactly what is observed in anti-ferromagnetic material. I mean, when you increase the temperature, okay, you increase the temperature. Below the temperature, the material is organized like that, and above the temperature, it's completely disorganized with spin in every direction. Okay, so it's pretty similar to what we observe with our model. And if you look at the energy here, it's really, really small.